following product was received free of charge for the purpose of review, however all opinions remain my own. Thanks to Creality for sending out these samples. The Halot Mage Pro is one of the more recent resin printers released in the Creality range. Join me in this video as I take a look at this product and see how well it fares in creating some miniatures for us scale modelers. I'm Matt, this is Model Minutes, and welcome to this video where I take a look at the Creality Halot Mage Pro. So first things first, this isn't going to be an in-depth unboxing and review of the product. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on how easy it was to use as a scale modeler and to see what the results are like and what can actually be achieved by the end of the video with producing some sort of scale model. Naturally, I will pop some links in the description to some other reviews I've found if you'd like to have a more in-depth 3D printing review. Out of the box though, I found it very easy to set up. It's pretty much ready to go out of the box. All you've got to do is remove all of the packaging and then give the base plate on the bed a bit of a level. To do this, you simply unscrew the 4 screws until you've got a nice loose surface, and then you go into the leveling settings. The build plate will then level itself using the small bit of paper I've put in between to get the right height, and then you tighten up those little screws again. The resin vat can be installed, and this will hold up to 1 litre of resin. It does have little mounting points on the bed of the device which sort of locks it into place, but there is a pump at the back for automatically refilling your resin if you want to do that, and it has this little clip that you've got to get it aligned with so the spout can then go into your vat, and I found I struggled to get this into place. But eventually, once you've got that in the right place, you just screw down the screws on the sides of the vat to secure it into place. For the pump, there is a little rubber hose that comes out the back, and you must make sure you put this into a bottle if you're using this feature, because otherwise you'll get resin everywhere. There is also an extractor pipe which comes out the back of the machine as well. It's not very long, it does extend a little bit. It's a nice feature, but I didn't really have anywhere for it to go. The touchscreen interface is a nice feature, however some of the menus are a little bit complicated and take some time to get used to, and there are 2 USB ports on the front, one of which you can use for uploading your files and the other one for a webcam if you so wish, but that's not included. Creality have also sent some fast resin in a nice grey colour. Not really sure what makes it fast, but apparently the Halot Mage Pro has a print speed of up to 170mm an hour, so that's pretty speedy for a resin printer. And now I need something to print. I found some of these beautiful looking files on the Hartolia Miniatures webpage, and I'll link them down in the description. I then put them into Chitubox, which is the slicing software I've chosen to use, and then resized them down to 1/72nd scale, or as close as I could. The figures were much easier to resize, however the little diorama was a bit more difficult because it didn't really say what scale it was to start with. I then saved that onto the included memory stick and plugged it into the machine. The machine will actually put it onto its own internal memory, so you can unplug the memory stick after it's done this if you want to. With that done, I added resin into the vat and then went back to the menu and selected the file. This was sent to print, and then I let the machine get to work. The resin is toxic, so wearing gloves and masks are well recommended for this, and the extractor fan inside the machine with the activated carbon filter seemed to have done quite a good job of preventing fumes from leaking out of the machine, as whilst this was working, I didn't really notice much of a smell. After about 5.5 hours, the 3D printing was now complete. However, we're not yet ready to do anything with these prints. There's a few little steps we need to do beforehand, that is to wash and cure them. Fortunately, Creality have got that covered as well. They also sent out free of charge the wash and cure station. This 2-in-1 device is really easy to use and will allow me to complete the post-processing of my resin parts. And to conduct this post-processing, the resin parts need to be removed from the base plate. So I let them drain off a little bit, hanging on the plate like that, and then I removed the front holding screw and removed the entire base plate with all the parts attached. This was then inserted into the basket inside the wash box. So you can wash it like this, or you can take the parts off. I tried it like this initially. Pop the lid back on the top of the wash station, and then you go down to the buttons, and it's really simple. It's a bit like using a microwave. You set the amount of time and then you press play. And the wash box has a magnetically inducted impeller, which then mixes the water and isopropyl alcohol mix that I was using in the basket to move around and wash your parts. I then went and removed the parts from the build plate to give them a more thorough clean and put them in just as they were. Once that was done, they were taken out and allowed to dry off, and then the support material was removed from the resin parts. Bearing in mind it's not cured yet, so it's still a little bit soft and a little bit flexible, which is probably the right time to do this. The wash and cure station was then set up ready for the curing part of the process, and a magnetically inducted turntable was loaded with all of my parts, and then I set it to cure. The UV light inside will then turn on and cure the resin to make it nice and hard, but it will become a little bit more brittle, and I will have to be careful when handling these parts to make sure I don't snap any of those fragile parts away. And here they are, all ready to do something with. And if I'm being honest, if you told me these were 3D printed, I wouldn't necessarily believe you. They have the same sort of quality as something that was injection molded. The details have come out incredibly well, and I didn't have any failures despite the fact that this was my first go at 3D printing with these files and this printer. Yes, some parts are a little bit fragile and I snapped off the gun of the tank here, but that was easily fixed with a bit of super glue later. When looking at the figures and the smaller parts, it's quite hard to see if there are any layer lines at all. The resolution being 8K means you're going to get a very fine result in the end. Even down to on these figures, you can see almost like their individual fingers, and even the long and thin barrels of the guns are reproduced. Now I'm going to quickly show you what I did to complete the diorama. The diorama prints were in 4 parts and they had to be glued together with some super glue. I used some household filler applied with a cocktail stick to hide the seam, working my way into all of those gaps to try and blend them into the diorama base. And then when that was done, all the 3D printed parts were given a base layer of a black primer. Following this, a zenithal highlight using a white spray can was applied, and then I used a variety of different browns and dark colours to fill in the areas on the diorama. A red sort of rust colour was used on the various metal parts, the tank and the figures having previously been painted grey. The parts of the building which still had the plaster applied to them were painted with a dark off-whitish sort of cream colour. The tank was given a dry brush of aluminium, as were all of the metal corrugated plates, and then the entire diorama base was given a dry brush with a variety of different colours, but primarily an off-white kind of sand colour to add a bit of highlighting and depth to the model. When all of that was done, it was time to glue into place the figures, and I called this 3D printed project complete. So yeah, I've been pretty impressed with the results I've managed to achieve with the Creality Halot Mage Pro so far. Like I said earlier, if you told me that this was 3D printed, I probably wouldn't believe you because it has the quality of an injection molded product. I'll pop a list of the main features of the Halot Mage Pro on the screen now to give you an idea of the kind of things that this product is capable of. And if you've been particularly impressed with the Halot Mage Pro and would like to add one to your workbench as part of your scale modelling repertoire, I've actually managed to get a discount code for you. So if you check out the link in the description and use the code on screen, you can get £50 or $50 off of your purchase price. So thinking about the product then, I found it generally on the whole to be relatively easy to use. Having some 3D printing experience, I think that's kind of helped. It does have a lot more features than I looked at in this video, such as you can connect it to Wi-Fi and the Creality cloud. I wasn't interested in any of that. I just wanted to put my files on a memory card and plug it into the machine and press play and see what we got. I didn't use the pump to add or take the resin out of the vat. I anticipate that possibly being more of a hassle than it's probably worth. I'd much prefer to just take the vat out and empty it myself, or add resin as and when I need it. I do find that hinge lid to be really helpful. Other 3D printers I've had have a lid you've had to take off and put back on, and it's just a bit cumbersome, but having a hinge lid just keeps everything in one place. The wash and cure set, that was absolutely fantastic. I find it so easy. You can just swap in and out the wash tank and the cure table, and it just is so easy to use, and it gave good results in about 10 minutes of curing because the parts were nice and solid. I've been thoroughly impressed with these products so far, and I guess watch this space to see if there are any more 3D printing projects on the channel soon. Again, take a look at the links in the description for everything that I've used during this video, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts were on this product and ultimately the diorama that I managed to complete today. As always, quick shout out to my channel members and patrons for the extra support they give the channel. A massive thanks to these guys on screen. If you'd like to join them, again, there's more information in the description. There are other ways you can help support the channel, but one of the best ways, if you're new here, is to subscribe with your notifications on so you'd never miss a modeling video. Once again, thanks to Creality for providing all of these products for free today. And finally, the last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.